We're on. Good evening and welcome to the Transportation and Parking Commission of Monday, August 24. Item number 1, please.
Item 1A, roll call. Commissioner Kirkjian.
Here.
Commissioner Yakubian.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Present.
Commissioner Bartrusov. Here. Chairperson Sahakian.
Here. Next item, please.
Item 1B is flag salute. Chairperson Sahakian.
Item number 3.
The flag salute.
Oh, the flag salute. Please rise. Complete our point. Cite with me. Pledge allegiance. The flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Because that item 6A you guys wanted to move threw me off. Next item, please.
Item 2 is the posting of the agenda. The agenda for the Monday, August 24, 2015 regular meeting of the Glendale Transportation and Parking Commission was posted by Friday, August 21st, 2015 before 5:30 p.m. on the bulletin board outside of City Hall.
Okay, so at this time, do we have any nominations for a new chairperson?
Do we want to approve the minutes?
Number 2.
Going to go selection of new chairperson is not item number 3. Are we doing
Actually,
that now, or we're going?
Mr. Chair?
I have
Yes,
a long
absolutely.
agenda.
Right. We're going to follow through, and we're going to have Anush read item number 3 into the record.
Item 3 is selection of new chairperson for the Transportation and Parking Commission for 1 year.
Yeah, I must have another agenda in my hand. It's not the wrong agenda. But so we will proceed with the chairperson. So we have any nominations for a new chairperson?
I would like to nominate Commissioner Gonzalez.
I will second that.
Second.
Excellent. Roll.
Commissioner Kirkjian.
Yes.
Commissioner Yakubian.
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
I abstain.
Commissioner Bartrusov.
Yes.
Chairperson Sahakian.
Yes. Yes, so we're going to switch seats, but the next item, chairperson, staff asked me to move item number 8A, which is the 5-minute presentation of the legal wash, so we can release it. Excellent, thank you. I'm going to keep this agenda because it's the wrong one, or it's out of order. Okay. And you can use yours. Congratulations.
Adam, got this phone.
Very good. Thank you to my colleagues for the nomination. Did I understand that you want to move 8A up? Is that what I heard?
Mr. Chair, we still have the approval of the minutes to conduct.
So are there any corrections or additions to item number 4 for our meeting of April the 13th, please? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second, moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Okay.
Aye. Yeah.
Okay, since no one is opposed, the minutes are approved as delivered. So then again, Rubik, you wanted 8A moved up? I missed.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, good. So everyone has an agenda with them, please. We're going to move item number 8A, information only on the Verdugo Wash path update. And Anush, who's taking care of that?
Mr. Alan Loomis.
Oh, Mr. Allen. Very good. Thank you. Greetings, Alan.
Hello. Congratulations, Mr. Gonzalez. I will point out the two of you need to swap your name tags, so we have to.
Oh, I see. Thank you. Thank you.
So the camera doesn't get you confused. Thank you for taking this this item out of order. As I said, this will be very brief, less than 5 minutes. The Verdugo Wash is on the screen here on a sort of cartoon version of the map of the city of Glendale for commissioners and the viewing public who are unfamiliar with the Verdugo Wash. It is a tributary of the LA River, which is the squiggly line on the bottom left-hand side of the screen. The Verdugo Wash is highlighted in green. They join up very close to San Fernando Road, the 134 freeway, kind of really underneath the San Fernando 134-5 interchange complex. Underneath those bridges is where the Verdugo Wash and the LA River join. The LA River, or the Verdugo Wash, then, as it goes upstream and uphill through the city of Glendale, basically runs east parallel to the 134 freeway and Glen Oaks Boulevard. Actually, a portion of it is underneath the front lawn of the Hilton. You may know that. As you drive into the Hilton, you actually drive over the Wash. It's kind of in a tunnel at that point. It then bends up near Ross Moyne, again, paralleling Glen Oaks Boulevard, and then starts heading north, running between Canada and Verdugo, past Glendale Community College and Verdugo Park, and then actually through the Glendale or the Oakmont Country Club properties, and then really flanks the north side of the Verdugo Mountains and the various neighborhoods that are there, like Whiting Woods and Oakmont, through Crescenta Park and the La Crescenta area, and eventually exits the sort of city boundary at Lowell and keeps headed further north and uphill into Sunland Tahunga. So it essentially drains the entire city. But much like the LA River, it's entirely encased in concrete along the entire pathway. So it is considered a drainage system like the LA River. When we adopted the citywide bike master plan a number of years ago, the Verdugo Wash corridor was identified as a possible bike trail or bike pathway because of the way it connects the entire city. And since then, we've been trying to identify a means of sort of exploring that idea further. There is, at this point, however, a community group and a group of interested, concerned citizens calling themselves, I believe, Friends of the Verdugo Wash, that have been meeting with the various neighborhoods along the Wash talking about this idea. But at this point, they are not speaking on behalf of city staff. From time to time, city staff is at their meetings, but they're attending those meetings as residents and probably as concerned citizens as much as anyone else. So they have been promoting the idea of this pathway. They've taken up the sort of challenge or the kind of idea represented in the bike master plan and trying to promote it in the neighborhoods where the Wash runs through. However, city staff has, working with Metro, identified funds as part of Measure R to explore this concept in further detail and kind of in a more official capacity of the city. So our Measure R funding is approximately $400,000 that Metro has agreed to program towards this over the next 2 fiscal years and to do really a feasibility study for the Wash. We've yet to actually lock down that with a kind of a funding agreement with Metro, which is effectively a contract that would allow us to then go out and hire consultants to sort of engage in that work. We'd hope to have that funding agreement locked down with Metro by the end of this quarter. That'll allow us to issue an RFP, hire a consultant that could then begin to explore this concept with the city's kind of imprimatur, if you will. We would expect to have that consultant contracted by the end of the calendar year, and so we'd be beginning to engage the community in outreach meetings probably the beginning of next calendar year, January, February, early side of that year. We'd anticipate spending approximately the first third of that $400,000, maybe $100,000, to do the master plan study and a lot of community outreach, probably at a minimum, I would say, 3, maybe 6 community meetings with the various neighborhoods that are adjacent to the Wash, so we really hear what their concerns are. And then we develop an overall master plan that would determine kind of whether the Wash is running or the path is running parallel to the Wash. Like in the parks, you can easily just build it right next to the Wash. But there are other locations where the Wash is running through built-up neighborhoods, particularly as it comes closer to downtown. So does the path go in the Wash? Does it go parallel to the Wash on a parallel street? Those are all questions that would have to be resolved at the level of the master plan. We anticipate then that master plan going in front of the City Council sometime next spring or early summer for them to bless it. Should the council approve the master plan, then we'd be able to spend the balance of that money doing the more detailed engineering and cost estimating that would allow us to actually have a kind of strong engineering background, so we could then begin to identify other funds, probably again from Metro, to allow us to actually build the wash. I should note that we have, at this point, despite the fact that we haven't officially started a project, we've actually received some petition letters from various neighbors adjacent to the wash who would prefer we not do the study. They're opposed to the project and concept. So when we do ask council to approve a contract for a study, we'll have to acknowledge that it's not universally held up in the community as a good idea. But like I said, we'd hope that this fall we'd be in front of council with asking them to approve a contract funded by Metro, Measure R dollars, to do this first phase concept study with a kind of completion target for that in sort of early summer 2016. So I think that covers everything I need to say, unless you have any questions.
Any questions from commissioners or comments? Please go ahead.
What type of design are we envisioning?
That would be one of the things we'd really be looking at through the feasibility study with this first consultant phase. To what extent could you actually do a separated bike path? I think it's kind of, that's what the bike plan anticipates.
Okay.
As a fully separated bike path. But as I said, there are some locations where the wash is very constrained by existing development patterns and private property where that may not be entirely possible.
So we're not restricted by any dollar amount. As the recommendations come in, then we'll take a look at it and we'll apply for Measure R funding or some other type of funding from there.
Correct. At this first phase feasibility study, no, I don't think we'd be constraining ourselves by dollar amounts, but obviously if we move forward and we're talking about a project that is fantastically expensive, we'll probably need to be looking at some more economical options.
Thank you.
But that's something, yeah, we'd be trying to engage and sort of flesh out during as the first phase feasibility study.
You mentioned that there have been some petition letters sent in opposition to the city doing a study. Can you summarize for us maybe what those concerns may be, since we haven't even started with studying the project?
I think part of it is an interest that the wash, as it runs near neighborhoods, is a potential nuisance of various kinds. So there's that concern. I think there is also concern that this money should not be spent, that if we're going to spend money on parks facilities, we should be spending them on existing parks facilities, recreation facilities, as opposed to pursuing new ones.
And is that an argument that holds water? Is this money dedicated specifically for walking and biking facilities, or could it be used for parks if we wanted it to?
It's really dedicated towards biking facilities. So,
okay.
If the council opts not to move forward with this project with these Measure R funds, we need to reprogram them for some other sort of bicycle facilities or transportation facilities elsewhere in the city. We couldn't reprogram them to enhance existing parks, for example.
Okay. My second question was that you mentioned briefly a timeline as you were describing the project, picking a consultant by the end of the year, having 3 to 6 community meetings, and then a draft of the master plan would go to the city council in spring, or
our goal would
seems like a tight quarter to do all that.
Our goal would be, spring or summer next year, having a master plan in front of the council for them to adopt. And that would answer some of the questions Commissioner Sahakian asked, where does the align, what kind of pathway is it? It wouldn't be the detailed engineering studies and deep cost estimates. That would come if later and if the council voted to continue moving the project forward.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Actually, thanks for the update. Something was new to me. I haven't heard this one before, but it's a very good idea that's proposed. Has covering the wash been any part of the consideration, or it's only adjacent to the parks or certain parts of the wash?
We haven't explored that yet, but I think that would probably be explored during the feasibility study.
The product itself will be something like where Chandler in Burbank is. They converted the train.
That's a reasonable analogy. Yeah, that's a reasonable analogy of kind of what I think the idea would be of what we could possibly accomplish.
But that's along Chandler where railroad tracks used to be. It's fairly wide. It's more like park-like walk for folks. And I mean, that's a great product if that's what you're envisioning versus just a regular bike lane.
Yeah. But as you said, there are some places where we're very constrained, where we
Yeah.
don't have that kind of right of way. So there may be options where we are looking at covering the wash. As I said, at the Hilton Hotel, it's already covered as the sort of front yard to the Hilton as it faces Glen Oaks.
Could you just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you for the update. And can you please just do an overview of where the connection to public transportation might be, Alan? Just on what streets? I mean, I could see people might use this for getting access to public transportation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have public transit service, both our local Beeline and Metro on Brandon Central. So at Brandon Central, there would be possible connections. Also at San Fernando Road, there's connections to fairly robust Metro service that could take you all the way to downtown LA or up into Burbank. And then where the wash is running adjacent to or parallel to Glendale and then ultimately Kanana and Verdugo, our local Beeline service as well as Metro service runs on those streets. So there'd be various cross points where you're very close, especially by the college.
And would that eventually be able to get to the transportation center?
Well, the pathway itself obviously
Not the pathway, but I mean then the
bus service.
The bus
yeah,
service.
absolutely. Almost all the buses that cross the path of the wash do end up going directly to our existing our transit service or very close to it.
And then one last question. Generally, knowing that some of that wash is in private property, as you said, in the Verdugo woodlands, is one to assume that maybe the bike path then would pick up on a street and then pick it back up somewhere?
I think that's something we'll have to be looking at when we get into those kind of neighborhoods.
Okay.
And as we talk to those neighborhoods about their degree of comfort and kind of desires.
Okay. Very good. Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much, Alan.
Thank you again for letting me go out of order.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go to oral communications, please. Agenda item number 5. I don't have any other information except for a request to speak under the public hearing.
Oh, yeah.
These are all, oh no, excuse me. Well, this is all newbie, looks like.
Yeah.
Anyone here that would like to speak under oral communications, agenda item number 5? Also newbie? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move then to item number 6, public hearing, please. Anusha, do you announce this?
I will announce it right now.
Thank you, please.
At item 6 is a public hearing. At item 6A is a report regarding proposed preferential parking for the 1100 block of Newby Street between Glen Oaks Boulevard and 5th Street. At item 6A1 is a resolution approving the establishment of a 2-hour 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday except by permit parking restriction on the 1100 block of Newby Street between Glen Oaks Boulevard and 5th Street.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Tad Dombrowski, our parking manager, to provide a brief report on the proposed preferential parking on the 1100 block of Newby Street and the studies that they have conducted, the outcomes, and the staff's recommendation.
Before you go, I do have interest in a property that's in the immediate area of Newby. It's within the 500 feet, and it's a company that I'm also the president of that company, which that's why I'm recusing myself from voting and discussion on this matter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner, please.
Good evening, Chairperson Gonzalez and Commissioners. Tonight, the item you have before you is a petition requesting preferential parking on the 1100 block of Newby. The residents got established approximately 85%, so there really is a lot of support on the residential side for some sort of parking relief. When we first discussed this with them, obviously the residents were impacted by parking in general and wanted some sort of regulation. The 2-hour regulation that was being requested was something that they felt would relieve them during the times that were needed. A lot of times this was during the day, not at a typical evening operation, a lot of the businesses then closed, and they would find parking on their street once the businesses closed and went home. So this was something where there are several residents throughout the day who are retired, who have odd jobs that come and go from work or from home. Those types of situations that are not typical go to the office from 8 to 5 jobs. And because of that, they were requesting relief during the daytime as well, not something into the evening hours. We did do some surveys on the street to see how much parking, where the parking was impacted the most. On the map that's shown, Newby toward, it's kind of hard to refer to it as east, west, north, south. It's kind of in the middle, but toward the side that is furthest away from Glen Oaks was where most of the available parking was. The average was about 75% occupied. But as you looked closer towards the Glen Oaks side of Newby and the first half, it was closer to 100% occupied. And then where the spaces were open was up toward the other end of the street away from Glen Oaks. So you have some of the residents that are toward that end that are more or less impacted than others. And this is really the challenge, but it's also definitely the purpose of preferential parking is when you have businesses that are impacting the residential neighborhoods. This is the only solution we have for solving a lot of the problems. As a result, I believe and the residents were, I will say, compromised. They would love to have permit-only parking. They'd love to have a lot of things, but it would have resulted in underutilized parking. So this is kind of the 2-hour except by permit is kind of the compromise that's built in that still allows visitor parking. It allows visitors to either the residents or to the businesses for up to a 2-hour period without impacting them. The goal is really to remove the employee parking that's happening on Newby that's taking up the spaces all day long and push them to another location. We have gotten a significant number of businesses that have contacted us as a result of the letters that went out on the 1200 and 1300 block of West Glen Oaks, which are adjacent on either side of Newby, with opposition to any sort of regulation on Newby Street. There was a petition that had a mix of a lot of, I believe it represented 14 of the 20 businesses or so that were in there, and a variety of whether it's owners or employees or anybody who would be impacted from the business side of it that had definitely said that they were opposed to any change in the regulations out there. The occupancy studies also showed that it was approximately 83% that were non-resident, which definitely means that the bulk of the residents are not parking there during the day. They're gone. It's either visitors to the businesses or visitors to the residents that are parking out on the street, and it's very difficult to determine which. Staff did observe several, in the trips out there and conducting the surveys, staff did observe several employees of local businesses that were parking there and walking as they were out conducting surveys. So it's known that we do have some employees that are parking on the street. It's not known how many that is and what that actual number is. So as a result, the 2-hour parking, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, would have the least impact on the businesses, still allow for some parking of people who are customers who are shopping, that type of thing, but at the same time provide the residents with much needed relief. So that would be the recommendation. That's the staff recommendation here for your consideration.
I think it's appropriate now to have those who request to speak, correct? So we have approximately 6 or 7 speakers, and I'm going to call them in order by how this was handed to me. And we'll start with Pat Turner, please. And if you would kindly give your address, that would be helpful.
My name is Pat Turner. I'm at 1110 Newby. I'm probably the most affected by the whole thing because I am one house off the alley. And I wrote something, but I'm not going to talk because I can do this much quicker. I've lived there since 1993. We have really never had very many problems with any parking at all. We've gotten along really well with all the smaller businesses that are on Glen Oaks. I'm not sure 14. They must be across the street. I have no idea how you could get 14 businesses in those couple blocks. But anyway, it's basically now one big business that has come in the last 9 months and has really changed the dynamics of our neighborhood. And they have many, many employees. They work 6 to 8 hour shifts. They don't park to a space. They stay in their cars over the break, and it becomes really hard. I'm a teacher. I teach at Fit'em downtown, so I do teach, 3 to 4 days a week full time, but I'm always on weird schedules. So it's great if I leave at 8 o'clock and come back at 6, but I rarely do that. I mostly teach 2 classes and then come back. And, you say there's extra parking now at the end of the block. Well, that was 2 months ago when you did this. It's gotten much, much more difficult. I don't know why. It just seems like it has. Now, the DMV used to be a problem, is much less of a problem. Since in the last month or so, they've calmed down, I think, on taking so many appointments. And all the smaller businesses, we really have had very little problem with everybody else because, again, most of their customers, the cigar store on the corner, they come, they're gone, they're there for, less than usually 30 minutes, even if they stay and talk, and then they're gone. It's really the long-term people. And the other problem that we see as neighbors is we come down that alley and their whole parking lot that can hold probably 10 cars and stacked about 25 cars is never full. So all their employees are parking on our block and their parking lot is almost empty. And that's where we really have a heart. We get a little bit emotional about this. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chris Can, please. Chris.
Hello, I am Chris.
Welcome.
We live on 1115 Newbie. We've been there since end of 2013, and since then until now, the parking really has been significantly, dramatically changed due to what Patty said about the new business that came through, and we just really have difficult time finding parking. And one thing I also want to mention is this new business operates on the weekends also. And it does. Sundays? 7 days, yeah. And it does really get heavy on the weekends also because, like myself, I'm self-employed. I'm a photographer, and I go in and out. I have an office here in Glendale, and I also work from home, so I go in and out. But it's really difficult finding parking, even the common, just for 5 minutes to grab something and go. And I actually have seen several neighbors getting ticketed because they blocked the driveway because there's no parking whatsoever. That's pretty much it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next person that requested to speak is Gloria Ann Marr, please.
Hey, good
Welcome.
evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. And thank the Glendale Parking and Transportation Council for sending staff out there to survey our street. This is my first time up at bat. I am a resident at 1111 Newby Street with my mother. Now, my family has lived at 1111 Newby Street for 30 years. And it used to be a very pleasant as our neighboring streets, uncrowded, with sufficient parking for the residents. Not so recently, it's been, like many of my neighbors said, we've never really had any trouble with the small businesses. It's just that with this large business that has come and opened, we've had difficulty with parking. Although currently we only use one car, and we happen to have one parking space available, I've noticed my neighbors cannot find parking spaces. And when we have a guest over, we're a little embarrassed because he or she have difficulty finding a parking space. And I've noticed the large new business that has opened, they reserve their limited parking spaces for their customers and send their employers out searching for themselves for parking. And of course, they park on the nearest streets, on Newby and perhaps on Glen Oaks and on Grandview. That's my guess. Well, again, thank you for taking this matter into your minds, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Marr. Okay, the next speaker, please, Sylvia Loftus.
Yes, my name is Sylvia Loftus. You did very well.
Thank you.
I would like to talk on behalf of 1118 Newby Street, which belonged to my mother, my 96-year-old mother who passed last October. And my biggest concern, because she was disabled, is I never knew when I would have to go down to get her, take her to the doctor, even if we had to call paramedics. Would there always be a way to get into her parking, into her driveway? Because the cars that are parking there, they try and get many cars into one place to park, and they they park into the driveway. So you'd have to swing way around, hoping not to damage their car or my own car. The other thing is that I was tempted to go out with a can of spray paint and just paint white lines so that you could get at least 2 cars parked in front of a residence. They would park in the very middle, and then that meant that only one person was parking there, and it left other spaces unusable. So, of course, I never did, but I was sure tempted to, only because I wanted to protect my rights for her. Now that we had to sell the house, I'm hoping that the new owners will not have the problem that we had. And I thank you that you are willing to listen to all the neighbors talk about it, because it's very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lois Ma?
I spoke for both of us.
Okay, thank you. And Andrew Caldwell.
Hey, I'm speaking on a different matter. Is that okay?
Actually, you should be speaking on agenda item number 6, please.
Yeah, 8B is what I'm here for.
Okay, just wait a few minutes and we'll be on that. Okay, so we've heard from those who wish to speak on this item. Are there any questions or comments? Since this is a public hearing, should be closed at this time? Okay. So do I need a motion for that? No. So the public hearing portion is closed now, but commissioners may have some questions and comments, please.
Yeah, I'd like to ask staff. Ms. Turner brought up an interesting point or observation of underutilized parking from the businesses. Did city staff make any notes or observations in that regard?
Chairperson Gonzalez, Commissioner Yacobian, yes, we actually recognize that in the times that we went out there, we didn't formally survey it to see how much parking was available in their parking lot that's behind the alley, but we did notice that the signs do say for customer parking only, and it seems like there were available spaces there most of the time that anyone communicated that back to me. So it may just be a matter of the business adjusting their policies, allowing employees to park back there and stack vehicles.
And just for curiosity, because I think you had touched on the group of concerned residents initially wanting much stricter. What were they asking for? What was how deep was their anger and their?
Typically, when the residents are contacting us and requesting preferential parking and get to the point where they're willing to go out and do petitions in the neighborhoods the way that these residents did, they are upset. They want their street. It's impacting their life every hour of every day. The reality is, I think this group of residents, I will commend them. They were very willing to listen to reason and understand compromise. We don't want the street empty just waiting for the residents to get home. It needs to be used during the day as well as the evening. So they were willing to listen to that and make an effort to try and accommodate some of their own visitors who would not need a permit. If they're coming to come for lunch in the afternoon, they wouldn't need to get a permit for their own visitors that are coming. So it would benefit both them as well as overflow customers who couldn't find parking for the businesses on Glen Oaks and turn down Newby. They'd be able to park there, but only for up to 2 hours, and then it would free up for the next person.
I don't want to say there's a typical preferential parking restriction that we go with, but those that we've had that have been off of business streets. Brand keeps coming to my head with the cars. But those streets are typically, and I'm just because I'm asking, because I don't remember, are they typically the 2-hour restrictions?
Typically, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? There was reference to a new business. What business is it? When was it established? And can you please share on the screen about where that is?
Yeah, the new business is the New Look Skin Center, and it is located right about here. And the parking for it is behind the alley and are these spaces back here.
And it was opened when? Because I heard that everything seemed pretty tranquil until that happened. How long ago was that?
I want to say it was, I honestly don't know. I believe it was in the last 6 months at some point that they actually opened the business. Before then, it was under construction for a while.
So I take it the permit and everything met zoning and no need for additional parking. It stayed within the typical zoning requirements. Okay. Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Just a quick comment to the residents. Just so you know, I support this, obviously. I think it would be more helpful to know in the report maybe a summary of the businesses that supported, opposed, just for future reference, so we have a balanced report. And for the residents, this may not be the solution, but this is something that I think is good for us to go forward with, and I think, and see how it goes. But just know if there are ongoing concerns or if this is something that continues to be a problem beyond the 2-hour restriction, you're welcome to come back to staff and come back to TPC.
Honestly, I don't think we're ever had a problem with the 2 hours.
Yeah.
We really didn't. I mean, from the beginning,
It's okay.
2% was here.
We're within a public hearing now, and that's okay.
And to the point of people blocking driveways, it's a simple parking enforcement issue. If you ever have any issues with that, call parking enforcement during business hours. If it's after business hours, you can call the police department. I live adjacent to an alley near a grocery store, so if you can imagine, we have a lot of cars coming in and out, parking illegally, and they're very responsive. So this is one measure. You also have to take some things into your own hands sometimes and call the respective department to take care of those issues as well.
I do have a question.
Yes, please.
The business that opposed it, they called you guys. Were they notified that the item will be on the agenda today?
Chairperson Gonzalez, Commissioners Sahakian, yes. It was actually the notification letter to the residents as well as the businesses on the 1200 and 1300 block that apparently caused them to write in their opposition. We notified everyone that there was a meeting in writing and said they could either send their comments to us directly or could attend the meeting tonight.
Okay. And Mr. Chair, if I may, are they in the audience, if I may ask?
Anyone from the businesses that have been mentioned in the audience at all? Apparently not.
Yeah, which doesn't sit well with me. If these residents can take the time to come to the meeting and this is dinner time, and then the businesses, if they're responsible, they should be here explaining their side of the story. So my decision in my mind is made up. Thank you.
So hearing as that there isn't any further discussion or comments, I will certainly call for a motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
So I take it the motion is to move the staff recommendation, which is on the in summary in the report, but also under the last 2 pages.
Yes, thank you for clarifying.
Is there a second to that motion?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
We need to take a vote.
I'm sorry, you have a different system here. I apologize.
It's okay.
We have a different system. I'm used to a different one. I apologize.
It's okay. Commissioner Kirkjian? Commissioner Yakubian?
Yes.
Commissioner Sahakian?
Yes.
Commissioner Bartusow,
Yes.
Chairperson Gonzalez.
Yes. Thank you to those who came to speak, and also to staff for putting together the report for this public hearing. We're going to now transition to item number 7.
Item number 7, presentation only. At item 7A, we have a presentation by Scott McNeely regarding Skytron.
Hello, Commission. Is there a mouse here, or are you going to drive? Oh, okay.
I can do it if you like, or you can, whatever.
I'm here to present a viable alternative to mass transit, which I hope you'll be excited about as I am. Looking for the mouse. Is it going to show up? Oh, there we go.
Now, you represent
Dendera, which is we're hoping to provide development services and a gap measure for attracting private funding, as well as operational services to the adoption of such a system. So what we're going to look at today is the current situation in Los Angeles County. Right now we have the worst traffic in the United States. 405 freeway has the highest of average daily traffic in the country, with 50% of the most congested freeways in the U.S. residing in Southern California. So we're doing pretty good. This contributes to some of the highest stress levels in the nation and lost hours in productivity. My mouse is having an issue. Not to mention the collateral fiscal impact. We produce 27% of the greenhouse gas in the U.S. is contributed by automobile emissions, second only to the production of electrical power. Gas prices are some of the highest in the nation, and you can see from the private sector we have a huge loss of productivity from people spending many, many hours in their car.
Excuse me, now, I know you said it, but I missed it. Is this the city of L.A., the county of L.A.? County of Los Angeles. Okay, thank you.
Okay, sure. So, car culture versus mass culture. Despite all these things, we love our cars. The reason why we don't want to get into mass transit, at least the bulk of it, is we don't want to wait. It's too crowded, and there are too many stops on the way to your destination. Mike Bonham, one of the council members in the city of Los Angeles, spent about 2.5 hours using public transit that would normally get him to work in about 25 minutes. So currently, these are the light rail and subway lines in Los Angeles, which you'll see they cover about 135 miles and a daily traveler rate of about 368,000. These are the proposed projects and improvements coming from MTA for the light rail and subway lines across Los Angeles. It's going to gain an extra 32 miles at a cost of almost $15.1 billion. Ben doesn't like that. I'm going to have you drive. I think you do. So basically, we're seeing in historical dollars, we're seeing a 70% decrease in our buying power. So it's not a good expenditure of money to rely on old solutions that are continually getting more and more expensive. And what is for PRT, for the people that don't know? PRT is Personal Rapid Transit. It's a subset of the larger automated network transportation language that's happening on a federal level. So ATN, larger group mobile systems, and CAR, which we're familiar with, those two combined really give us the features that of a PRT would enjoy. Right now, the PRT systems are comprised of a 2 to 6 person pod, and like a car, you can choose who you ride with. It's on demand, so you can use your smartphone, and there's no waiting. If you have a station that you're approaching at, you swipe your smartphone in it, and the car comes to you within less than 30 seconds. And it's point to point, so there's no waiting as far as waiting for someone to disembark on another stop. It takes you directly to your destination. As you can see on the animation there, the pod offloads offline, much like a freeway off-ramp. The speeds are variable, so they can go up to larger modal systems. For example, if you wanted a local and regional system, they can go locally up to 35 miles an hour. Regionally, they can go up to 100 miles an hour. The first generation of PRT was established in Morgantown University in the 70s. As of last summer, they're investing another $100 million into upgrading the system. So they have a huge success rate with their system there. The second generation is more what you're seeing at Heathrow Airport that was established in 2010. They just had their millionth rider, and they're also extending their lines. The third generation actually brings maglev to the world of personal rapid transit, and that system is going into Israel right now in a 3-phase rollout. In September, you're going to see the first phase with 2 more phases to go. The system is hoping to be operational in 2017. Right now, there are 9 vendors worldwide that supply PRT solutions. So this is really not a new technology. This has actually been around for a while. If you want to, there you go. They are ADA compliant. They are mass produced in a modular fashion, so the design and build model of design on site is the economics are greatly increased because you can actually deliver the thing factory made to the location of the build out. And as you can see, the cost comparison is significantly less compared to subway, light rail, and freeway. Also, the energy consumption is much less in per watt per mile per passenger. Right now, these are existing systems, as well as under construction and planned. 3 more have come on in their feasibility studies. You might have seen in CNN last week that Austin's on board on looking for one. South Carolina is rolling out their RFPs this week. Denver's waiting for their chance to move forward. And Inglewood is also coming online and inquiring the PRT to satisfy their desire to mitigate traffic with the new introduction of the stadium. This one I chose for SkyTran. I chose to show you this one for particular reasons because our geography is so spread out that we really need something that's going to be reduce the multimodal and get us from larger destinations. We have a regional modal, which will take us from LA Airport to any city that can ramp up. You can take it down the 405 freeway in the median or the center of the 10. They adjust to grades, so this could be a solution to head over the Sepulveda Pass very easily. These systems can go in. Some of the vendors are estimating they can put a mile in about 3 days, significantly faster. The footprint of these infrastructure systems are no less or no more than about 2 feet. So if you can imagine having a huge drill like a street lamp, and you put it in there, support it, and then it's ready to go, probably less than a week. You can click on the video. There's actually a video. This is one of the systems. I'm going to go back. There you go. This is SkyTrans. They've got 2 models right now. They've got an undercarriage supported. This is what it should be today, is what they're saying. This is an animation of a system they're designing for Chicago. Some of the infrastructure is light enough to be on the sides of buildings. You can do direct access to terminals, airports, registrations for hotels, seated levels of stadiums. We approached Dodger Stadium, and we estimated that we could offload their entire stadium in probably about 20 minutes. Okay, next one. So what I'm here is it costs less, build time is faster, privacy, on demand, point-to-point, no stops, scalable speed from local to regional, less noise, and less maintenance because we don't have steel-on-steel technology. We're using maglev. That's it. Anybody have any questions?
I'm sure.
Is everyone all right?
You said you represented Denera?
Right. Because what I found was looking at these 9 vendors, they do not have any desire to create operational services once the installation happens. The private equity interest from the private sector does not want to release the upside to the municipalities. So to bridge that gap, it would have to be a third party entity, like a public-private partnership.
Like a public-private partnership, in a way?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, and I come from a banking background, so I plan to outreach to the private sector as far as funding. Right now, there's possibly 3 or 4 different investment funds for infrastructure, totaling about $2.5 billion that would like to take a look at this and at least start the conversation. There still has a lot of work to do as far as to whether or not it's feasible for different alignments, but I think it's a conversation that should be had.
Any comments or questions? From
Just a comment, Mr. Chair. The reason I wanted this presentation and I asked for it is because, as you all know, we have a missing link between our central business district and our mass transit hub at the edge of the city. We do have bus service, but it's just not the same. It's not as convenient, and convenience is the major factor for most for not to use the mass transit system. So I think it's a good solution. I've studied the speed, how quickly it could build. It could be built very quickly. And the funding, if we're to compare it to any other light rail system, it's much less,
right.
To my understanding.
To compare it, it's about almost 1/20th the cost.
Right. And we talked about adding bike racks on the pods, and we talked about advertising, the city advertising on the pods, and on Christmas time turning them into ornaments and all kinds of things, all kinds of ideas. So that's why I wanted this presentation. And they're doing it in Israel right now. It's cutting edge. I'm following the construction down there. And I think this will put Glendale on the map as a cutting edge city. And it'll be good.
And if it wasn't clear, because of the elevated transportation infrastructure, you're freeing up another lane for potential traffic. A good, well-designed single system will provide 12,000 cars per hour of mobility. So that's equivalent to about 2 traffic lanes on the freeway.
And so we're not occupying any traffic lanes.
Yes, yeah.
And as far as the foundations for the poles, those could be installed within the sidewalk area, or do a combination electric light pole and a support pole type of a deal.
Absolutely.
So how would you suggest a partnership relative to the city of Glendale?
Well, I think we need to...
in this potential P3 arrangement?
Well, there's several different iterations of it. It really depends on the economics of the area and the kind of fiscal support that it would receive in the long term. So we'd need to do a feasibility study. There's things like availability payments, which you're probably already familiar with, for such systems. If they have a certain performance rate that they maintain throughout the year, the city's responsible in using some of their tax money that they get for the operation of the business as an availability payment. That's one model. As you know, these systems... general transportation systems are subsidized to the tune of 92% in our area, which is hugely inefficient. And we need to try to, I feel we need to move away from that model. The nice thing that's attracted to this is that you stand a chance to get a more robust user base rather than the 2% or less than 7% in LA County of mass transit users. You're going to get the average person to get out of their car and use it more. So I'm going to anticipate that the ridership will increase much along the same lines as what they're experiencing in Heathrow right now.
Well, Mr. Chair, it's the point-to-point that really speaks to me, because, for example, and this is not eventually between the Central Business District and the Mass Transit Hub. I'm thinking to the Burbank Airport, at some point to the downtown Central Business District area. Yeah. And from here to Burbank on the new system, it could be less than 7 minutes.
Yeah. We did a rough feasibility study from the west side to downtown in Playa del Rey. I don't know if you've ever driven it, but it can take a rush hour close to 3 hours. At least it did me. Using the Biona Creek and the waterway, it can actually get you there in 18 minutes.
That sounds good. Think of how many people we can bring to commission meetings.
Yeah, it took me an hour and 45 to get here today. So.
I had a couple questions.
Sure.
This is fascinating. Very fascinating. A couple things. What are they? Typically, how high are they? Because I saw some of these photos, and I, doom and gloom, thought I'm going to be the one that's stuck in that pod when there's like a short circuit and I'm dangling, right? So I'm sure people would think that. I'm just curious, how high is it? I'd like to know, earthquakes, has that been, the locations where there are, I don't know if there are faults, and I'm sure there are in Israel, but what has that been done? Because just sticking something in the ground that's only,
Since it's automatically controlled by an operating system, a computer system, it's going to know when to shut sort of areas off, which might be having experienced some technical difficulties with seismic activity. Another nice thing is that you get the deployment to destination or event sites more quickly. For example, if you had a football game going on downtown and you had about 300 pods sitting on the west side and you know that thing's happening, it's going to deploy those cars all the way to the football stadium for you, so it prepares. You can do some smart learning on these kinds of systems as well. They can also even attach to the sides of building or through alleyways. Generally, there you can go up to 30 feet high. We're recommending probably no more than 15 or 20, which is the standard clearance for a truck under an underpass. So it's not that high.
So these probably have a great application, I think you were mentioning, in terms of evacuation, if you need to move a lot of people out of an area quickly.
Yes.
Very
Because
interesting.
I don't know if you were, I was here for the Northridge earthquake, and I was living in Beverly Hills at the time, and people were driving over their lawns to get out of the city. Couldn't do it. We were stuck.
Kind of coupling to that question, do you have any notion of any safety issues or anything that lessons learned on any issues that have already been implemented?
Not on the established systems as of yet, but I think we're going to be learning some things from Israel. I'd like to go over there and kick the tires when they're ready at the next phase. I think it's important to develop a sense of what the criteria for safety is going to be here in Southern California. I would probably liken it to be similar to the roller coaster standards, which have an excellent track record, because they're not a car and they don't have collision problems like trains. They have a singular line. So that all this needs to be sort of developed and worked on.
Have you thought of do you have any preconceptions of how this might be and where it would happen in our city? And about how much would it cost someone to ride it?
That's what the feasibility study and the peripheral income revenue streams will sort of answer those questions, because ideally I would like to see where it's not subsidized at all. That would be ideal for me. The growth funds that are looking to invest in this don't need a 10 times return on their investment. They're slow growers, so a 2% return is much more attractive. So I think that lowers the ridership, or the barrier to entry and the cost for rider. I'd like to keep it about the same as what you're experiencing for a bus.
Yes.
Thank you very much for coming and giving us this presentation. You seem to have solved the world's transportation problems in 10 minutes. So I guess my obvious question, maybe it may not be so obvious to others, is Glendale is a relatively small player in the region when it comes to transportation. Have you reached out to Metro or SCAG to talk about this as a solution? And
I have.
What kind of response have you gotten from them?
They're very positive. It's just that they were more concerned of stakeholder adoption. They weren't sure that people would be interested in writing it. So we're trying to identify an alignment that would have a huge success rate using several different types of user bases, whether it's a destination point for entertainment on a weekend user, or a commuter user, or a resident. So we're trying to identify, and I think we spoke about the downtown LA as a possible alignment. But yeah, we've reached out to Culver City, West Hollywood, Venice, Long Beach, San Pedro, you guys now. I'd say about 8 or 9 cities so far, and I'm being introduced to Sandag next week, I think, the San Diego COG. The San Fernando Valley COG has adopted, as of last month, they want to adopt the language of discussion for PRT into their planning. And the West Side COG is also, that happened on Wednesday. I'm not sure what the outcome of that was, but I'm hoping that they also are planning to adopt the language, because we need to get the vocabulary there, and right now it's not there.
Yeah, it seems like an amazing concept, and I would love to see it somewhere in LA soon. I know a lot of the transportation dollars come from entities above us, so as long as they're on board, I don't see why the cities wouldn't be on board. But this can be something that could replace one of the B lines, talking about connecting to the train station for residents, more and more residents that are living downtown. and here in Glendale may want to get down to the train station faster than 30 minutes, which is what the bus would take you and what it takes me. So sounds great.
Yeah, I did speak with Phil Washington, the new head of the MTA, a couple nights ago, and he's intrigued. So he's creating a new post. I think he's calling it Extraordinary Innovation, and he's going to name somebody in the next 30 days. So I'll be meeting with them to talk about it further.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you.
So I have one more question, please. The visual that you showed everything above grade, and I heard you talk about 15 feet minimum. The passengers, do they take an elevator? Do they take stairways, or does the car get down to street level?
It could arc down to street level, or you could take it if you had a building that had a park and ride, and they were at second level, you can go up to. It's very fluid. It's very robust. You can go down a grade if you like, and it can go above grade.
So the lowest dollars you showed there per mile, is that considering elevators or?
That's considering that was a 1 mile run with 3 stations.
Mm-hmm. And stairways to get to it, or elevators for ADA and everything?
There was 1 ADA station and 2 at grade that came to tip down at grade.
I see. Good. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Chair, before you leave, what I'm gonna suggest is, if with your permission, Ubik, is if staff can meet with Scott and I mean, without a feasibility study, just an unofficial maybe meeting, maybe just a half hour to 1 hour, so they can throw some ideas at you what's their vision, where the line should basically run, and then from there you can take it, and if you're gonna try to sell it to us again next time, you can come with a prototype that's that you can sell.
There is a slide with the pod on it that you didn't see. Would you like to see that? The actual physical pod? It's in NASA? Okay, let's take a look at that.
Now, it's not a solar system, right?
It could be. It's solar amended. You can
you
can flank it with solar power to reduce the load.
Interesting.
It has the There it is. Just click on that video. This is one of the 2 designs. This is on a 300-foot track underneath a hangar. And what they're doing there is they're testing guideway, they're testing the actual floating of the device. And this is an hanging or suspended one. There's also one that's an undercarriage version.
This is the maglev?
That's the maglev version, yeah.
And this was designed by NASA? I saw the logo.
It was co-developed, yeah. They're developing it at Moffett Field. So it's on their site.
What? Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
The doom and gloom commissioner, sorry.
Oh,
but if someone's in that pod and they're having a medical emergency, how do you have it's built so that it can lower it, and then
I would think that you could alter the route. You can alter the route once you're in the pod. So if you have a medical emergency, it could route you to the nearest hospital really quickly.
And it's routed by, you said, the phone?
You can pre-program with your phone. Basically, you're saying where you want to go and get your ticket on your phone.
Okay.
You walk up to your pod, you enter it, and it's already got that destination in mind. However, it's got a 17-inch screen on the pod. You'll see it in the very last slide. And if you want to change your route and decide, I want to go to Gelson's or I want to go to the whatever, then you just change it there and it'll take you somewhere else.
So there's no competing people, like my son wants to go to Baskin-Robbins and I'm not being directed the wrong way. It's going to be one person who can...
You'll have to wrestle him for the control, but yeah.
Right. I see. Okay, great. All right. That's interesting.
Yeah, see, there's the screen that you can see. This is an artistic rendering of the inside. And it's bike rack friendly, it's ADA friendly. You can fit a wheelchair in there and the light.
I assume if it's the same as you're in a high rise in the elevator and the power goes off or you have an emergency, it just goes down to the bottom floor and...
You disembark in your nearest exit, basically.
Well, I'd love to, I'm echoing Commissioner Sahakian, I would love to have you come back and give us kind of some updates as to what's going on, maybe what's happened further in Israel, and also what Commissioner Sahakian had suggested. It's fascinating. I think I don't know if we're necessarily a small player in transportation. I like to think that we're, we have our fingers on the pulse, and that we're trying to work with our very challenging topography where we are and what has already been in existence in the city. So I think we're a city that likes to look for new ways. So I personally would like to.
I mean, absolutely. I used to take the bus downtown. It took me 40 minutes to get downtown from Glendale. This thing will get me there in 8 minutes. It's a no-brainer for me, if you think about it. So that's why I'm pushing so hard for it. And also it's clean, and I'm all about clean energy. And you know what? The mass transit system right now, like Commissioner Wasserov said, it could replace the B line. The first thing that came to mind, the B line is subsidized, and it's tons of money. So if it's a trade-off. You can take that and then put it into this system. You don't need to double it up.
Right.
So it's exciting. That's all I can say.
Actually, it is, because Tel Aviv is one of the fastest growing cities in the world, and real estate price, from what I hear, quadrupled in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And there's huge influx of population in Israel, and Tel Aviv in specific. And the airline, El Al airline, is the safest in the world.
Yes.
So for them to undertake and agree for the system, for the transportation in that very densely populated city, they know something that we don't.
Yeah, it's very positive.
And I think the city should, as Commissioner Sahakian stated, we should start communication.
Okay. Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, City of Glendale being a very progressive city and always intrigued with new technologies, cutting-edge technology, we were more than happy to meet with Mr. McNeely and go over some of the option and hopefully commission a feasibility study and see where that takes us.
Good.
Great. Okay.
Hearing no objections, then thank you, Commissioner Sahakian, for bringing this to the attention, and Mr. McNeely for making your presentation. And the normal question I would like to ask about when might something come back to the Commission? I mean, month of?
Well, that would be reliant on how far we get with
Mr. Chair, so give us an opportunity to connect with Mr. McNeely. I'd like to invite some of the other departments who will ultimately be interested and involved in the implementation of this plan if it ever happens, and then we'll commission the feasibility study, and depending on the complexity of it and how long it takes, then hopefully sometime this year, if everything goes well, we can bring a report back to the Commission.
We appreciate having a time frame on that. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move to agenda item number 8B. This is an information item only, Rubek, but also there's a speaker that wanted to speak to this item.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the Commission, before I start the report on this informational only item, you have the option of opening the oral communication item up for the gentleman to speak at. Because this was not agendized and it's not an agenda item, there will not be a conversation from the public, but they're more than welcome to speak in the public hearing, not public hearing, oral communication portion.
Oral communication, okay.
So with that, there was a request from, Mr. Chair, from Commissioner Botrusov for an update on traffic calming measures along Highland Avenue north of Glen Oaks Boulevard. As you may know, the bicycle transportation report and the master plan was adopted by City Council in 2012. That was after an exhaustive data collection as well as community input, and we have gradually but surely been implementing portions of the recommended items within this master plan. Highland Avenue was part of the approved and adopted master plan for the installation of bike lanes and sharrows. However, several months ago, several members of the neighborhood came to the city council complaining about traffic issues, speeding, more specifically, drop-off and pickup of the students at the Hoover Capitol schools that had caused some concerns regarding traffic, and the City Council commissioned the Public Works Department to look into the matter and address the issues as best as we can. That said, we accelerated the installation of bike lanes and sharrows. I believe bike lanes were painted and installed. That started on Glen Oaks Boulevard all the way to Glenwood, and then from Glenwood to Cumberland, we installed sharrows or marked shared markings for bicycles and vehicles as recently as a couple of months ago. Studies, as you may know, have shown that bike lanes have the effect of visual narrowing of roadway and have been shown to slow down traffic, calm vehicular traffic. So this was one of the fastest means that we could implement some traffic calming measures. At that particular council meeting, the residents also complained about visibility issues at the intersection of Tantini. Since then, we have painted the curb returns at that intersection red, so the curbs currently are red, so people cannot park where they used to, right at the corner, so that has improved visibility. We conducted volume and speed studies at that intersection because there was a request made for stop signs. However, the results of the studies did not reveal sufficient volume and speeds that would warrant stop signs. Other things that we have done on that stretch of Highland Avenue includes installation of radar speed sign that shows your speed when you're traveling down the street. Police department had installed trailers. They put these up on a short-term basis, and we are planning on bringing those back intermittently. We couldn't find a suitable post to put them on, so that's why we use the trailers. Last but not least, we are currently studying the feasibility of potentially installing one uncontrolled zebra crossing crosswalk somewhere mid-block, which would be the most practical way, but the challenge is to find the perfect location that most people would use to cross. We don't want to go through the expense and the inconvenience and of removing the sidewalk and installing the crosswalk, having to find out that it doesn't work. Most people don't use it. So that's been taken a while, but that is in progress. The challenge with that and the collateral damage would be that at each end of the crosswalk, we have to install the latest ADA complying curb ramps that if you've seen them around the city, they are quite large in size. So that would take away some landscaping on private property potentially, and of course the sidewalk. So with that, those are the things that we have implemented and the plans to what to implement in the future.
Thank you for that update. If there are no objections from commissioners, we can ask the speaker to come up now. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is under Mr. Caldwell, right? This is under oral communications, so we have to observe the guidelines of that.
5 minutes, right? Yes.
Sir.
Okay. So I won't take up too much of your time, and appreciate Mr. Galonian taking the time to acknowledge all the work that you've done there. I'd like to say that the bike lanes had an impact on traffic, but it hasn't. They look nice. They're bright. Unfortunately, people are still going 80 miles an hour up and down Highland Avenue. No joke, yesterday I was out there and somebody drove around another car that was moving too slow and passed them in the other lane. I mean, this kind of thing happens all the time. It's a really wide street. It kind of has this beautiful slope to it. There's lots of trees, so, you know, you kind of, I guess if you have a fast car, you think you're on the Autobahn or something. It's just fun to just put the pedal to the metal and see how fast you can go. We've been a bit frustrated because we had a sort of a two-tiered approach to this. I came into the city council in February and made a rough presentation, and they were generally receptive to it. And then another neighbor of mine, Denise, actually went further, and she had every neighbor on the street for the entire 2 blocks from Glen Oaks all the way up to Glenwood sign a petition asking for a further study into everything from a stop sign, which isn't going to happen, obviously, to a traffic circles, to crosswalks. And, we just didn't ever get a response to that petition. I did receive a letter from Mr. Galonian saying that he had replied to my inquiry, but we still haven't heard back about the petition that we submitted. And the petition went a lot further, and it was like we really rallied the neighborhood, and I contacted a lot of my neighbors, and none of them showed up because they're just fed up. They're frustrated. And I mean, we have to live with this every day. There's just people speeding. I mean, the majority of the cars are fairly, they drive 40 miles an hour instead of 30, but it's better. But, you get these kids driving like just as fast as they possibly can. It's totally unsafe. Not to mention the noise, property value, and obviously the elephant in the room is we have 3 schools right around the corner. And we're just curious why we couldn't have this, taken more seriously. Like bike lanes doesn't do anything for a car. I mean, sure, visually it narrows the road, but it's been pretty ineffective, in the 3 months that it's been installed. And, we've all been there. We're on the front lines with this, and it hasn't done anything. So we actually met with council member, who was the new one who was just elected to the council? Barton, thank you. He met with us a few weeks ago, just came over to my neighbor's house and wanted to hear get our input, and he was very receptive. But he agreed that something needed to be done. We called the police, like they just kind of give us the runaround. Like it's really frustrating, and the residents on the street, I've only been there 6 years, but other residents have been there 30 years, and they've tried this, they've come in, they've petitioned, and nothing's ever happened. So I'm just curious as to why bike lanes seem to be the only real solution to an ongoing problem that's been present for decades, really, in the city of Glendale. And if we want to present Glendale as I know this is a micro kind of issue. It's a very small portion of Glendale, but it's important. I think if you want to show leadership, then maybe try tackling a subject that's been brought back to your attention over and over and over again many times over the past 30, 40 years. So here I am again, just hoping that you guys can do something else other than just bike lanes. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much for coming and giving your viewpoint, Mr. Caldwell. Comments at all, or any questions, thoughts?
The reason why I asked for this update is because I know a couple of residents on Highland, and I visit them regularly, and I've seen the problems that the gentleman is describing. Some of them have kids, some of them, are participate in the school system nearby. Highland is a very wide street, and it's as Mr. Galanyan said, it has low volumes of traffic, and that formula lends itself to high speeding. Perfect example of that that's very clear for everybody to understand. This Glen Oaks in the evenings, when it's not rush hour, you have 3 really wide lanes going in each direction, and when there isn't that much car traffic or volume on that street, people have a higher tendency to speed along that corridor, and hence we have all these problems with traffic safety along that corridor. So I did want to hear the update. Thank you for doing that. Do we get a sense from that report at what speed people were traveling during the times at which you studied it?
Commissioner Bartusov, I apologize, but I don't have that data available, but it definitely did not meet the threshold. In some cases where the studies have shown speeds that are close to the threshold, I have made an exception, but that wasn't the case here. So the speeds that were shown and collected by the study were much lower than the threshold.
Yep. If it's possible, I'd like to see the results of that report. I'm happy to see bike lanes on the street. I know that sometimes when you create that additional line adjacent to parked cars, there's this perception that the road is narrower. One example that always comes to mind is Royal. From off of Mountain Street, they added lines on the sides. What are those called? The name is escaping. Ed strips. I know those are sometimes helpful. I'll use the bike lanes because I use that corridor to ride up to visit my parents, so that's nice. But I do think that speed is a concern, and along that stretch of Highland, there isn't much. There isn't much resistance or stop signs or anything to slow people down. So I think that's the natural reason why some people wanted stop signs or roundabouts to reduce the speed of which vehicles are moving. I've mentioned this in the past. There is a toolkit that the City of LA has adopted, or LADOT, I should say, that's a simple traffic calming toolkit that kind of enables residents to imagine what can be done along their corridor to slow traffic down. And just like we have a mechanism for people that want to restrict parking, for example, on their street, there's a process, there's a petition, they come to the commission. I would love to see something like that for traffic calming, because it's something that's coming up time and time again. The city is now prioritizing safety as a number one issue that they would like to address. We just got funded to have a pedestrian master plan to address ongoing safety concerns. This is something that can enable residents and have them be part of the process rather than just reacting to it and getting fed up and feeling like their voice is not being heard or addressed. So I'm happy to share the toolkit with staff and the other commissioners. Maybe this is a process that we can develop together over time. But I would hate to see the energy of the residents kind of dissolve just because they're not getting what they want. That's
yes,
what I have to
Mr.
say to
Chair,
that.
Commissioner Bartusov, as you recall, and a couple of your commissioners are members of the Pedestrian Safety Task Force, that was one of the recommendations, one of the 20 recommendations that the task force has made and presented to your commission and city council. And we have just concluded selection of consultants for the pedestrian safety, citywide pedestrian safety plan. And once they come on board, that is going to be one of the items that they'll be working on.
So street calming will be one of the items that relate to that?
I'm sorry?
The issue of street calming is one of their deliverables or their tasks to study?
No, what Commissioner Bartusov was referring to was a toolkit for the residents to be able to provide comments, input, request, a system essentially, as opposed to going door to door or collecting petitions. So it'll be a system in place for every resident to be able to voice a concern when it comes to unsafe conditions on the street.
So I guess I misunderstood. I kind of thought I heard Alec mention that there is a toolkit that helps relative to street calming.
Well, the city of Glendale has, and council has adopted the neighborhood traffic calming guidelines.
Okay.
So those are the guidelines that we currently follow.
And the consultant you mentioned that's being selected as a result of the work that was done by the committee and everything is going to be addressing that as a part of his or her work?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Thank
I
you.
have
Yes, please.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Couple of questions. Now, I know Highland connects San Fernando Road to Glen Oaks. I'm correct.
Yes,
Now,
Commissioner Sakian.
there are a couple of other streets also, such as Pelanconi to the west and a couple of others. They also connect between the two. Is there a cut-through traffic problem? Highland, is it wider than the others? Do we have the same problem on the adjacent streets?
Commissioner Sahakian, the Highland Avenue that we are discussing and the residents have shown concern is north of Glen Oaks, towards the schools.
And it's mostly speed coming down the grade? I would take it north to south?
I believe that's what the concern is, yes.
Well, both ways, going up also, apparently.
Well,
yes,
yeah, Mr. Golanya. So, first off, I was one of the commissioners on that task force. And the city, it doesn't get publicized every day in the newspapers or for the general public. The immense amount of work that the staff is putting into, and they're really pushed to the limits to try to find best solutions. And as Mr. Golden, as you were saying, we're reaching some really great points now where you said the firm has been selected to get things going. And I know the city-wide safety initiative also, and the Safe Routes to School also is underway. So just to reaffirm that Highland, that area, that's a designated emergency response road, right? That's portion of Highland.
Yes,
yeah,
Commissioner
it is.
Yakubian.
I figured as much. So would it be possible that we ask, because I see all of the steps you've taken, and maybe to residents, they just seem like a checklist. Stop sign, painting, bulb outs. All of that takes a lot of money, and they're really going after all the possible ways to do things within the means of engineering, safety. They still have to work within the confines of what they can do. So, is it possible that this area, and I know it's so close to the schools, that somehow we incorporate it with the Safe Routes to School study that they're going to be doing, the consultants, as they're coming down and they're examining the schools, that we indicate to them that in these areas where there are hot spots of unsafe driving, that be incorporated in their analysis, in their expertise in trying to come up with innovative solutions for that problem. Is there any way we can tag that? I'm just trying to think of ways that we can keep kind of not settling and keep pushing it until we find the right answer. What is your thought on that?
Yeah, absolutely, Commissioner Yakubian. Those three schools so close to each other with that cluster has always, for a number of years, has been a hot spot, as you noted. And we have several projects in the future, and we will commission the newly selected consultant to take that into account. And as you have so accurately noted, we haven't forgotten about Highland. The bike lanes were only installed 3 months ago. We do believe, and studies have shown, that it does calm traffic down. So we will go back and conduct more studies and see and compare it with the study that we conducted prior to the installation of the bike lanes. And if it has improved, great. If it hasn't, then we have other means that we can pursue.
Right.
The other boulevard or the other street you could check, obviously, where the sharrows have been put in is on Cañada Boulevard, which I think has some very similar issues of Highland.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And I think that might be a good place to check, because those were just added also.
Right. On Cañada Boulevard, we installed sharrows and not bike lanes. And the difference is, though, that Cañada Boulevard is a major thoroughfare in the city, whereas Highland may not be categorized as the same.
Mm-hmm. But speed is speed, and speed brings danger. And
I completely agree.
Right. Yes, please.
Thank you.
On the way here, I heard on the radio that Mayor Garcetti issued an order today for the very same thing we're discussing, which is pedestrian safety, and because of the large number of accidents, both pedestrian and bike-related accidents, and he basically said the executive order that he issued was pretty much what we're talking about in a nutshell. Study it. It doesn't cost a lot to fix our problems. But by this, which is what everybody's saying here. By the same token, with regards to Highland, that's a street I travel a lot, and streets similar to Highland, it's an arterial street connecting Cumberland down to San Fernando Road. Not too many streets in the area connect San Fernando Road all the way up to Kennett or beyond. So even though safety is priority, but I believe we have an obligation to drivers as well, don't we, Mr. Kulanyan? Because the traffic has to move.
Yes, Commissioner Kurkjian, that's absolutely correct. So it's a competing balance of interest. We'd like to get traffic moving, but at the same time, we don't want it to be at speeds that's dangerous to the pedestrians and the residents. I have been told that our police department has sent enforcement, particularly to Highland. When I meet with Chief tomorrow, I will emphasize that. The chief had met with the Northwest Neighborhood Association about a month ago, and this particular street was on his agenda. His team and his staff have collected data that shows our pedestrian related accidents have actually decreased, which is excellent news. But jointly with the police department and Public Works, we do everything we can collaboratively to try to tackle these issues on several levels. But you're absolutely right. We also have an obligation to move traffic, but at safe speeds.
That's what I was going to suggest, enforcement by the police department. I know several people who drop their kids off in the morning at school, go down Highland to get on the freeway to go. Now, I doubt those folks are the speeders that the gentleman here described, a parent who drops the kids off going to Highland. But again, it's being an arterial street to connect to the freeway. I think we had reason with that sign as well.
Good. Any other comments or questions from
I just want to
commissioners?
say one last. I always remember something after someone else speaks, but to the gentleman who came up, is it Patrick, who came to speak about this? And I think Commissioner Bartrasoff, you really touched on it when he said, when we start to see residents feeling apathetic and feeling like there's no hope, that's when it gets to a dangerous level. And in all my experience in dealing with pedestrian safety for the city, as representing as a commissioner, and all of the efforts that have been going on in the city with the staff, the one thing that always comes up is in order for new campaigns and new projects and new behavioral changes to be successful is we're going to need the support of the people of Glendale. And we need the people of Glendale to believe that it can be done. And so I hope that you can go back to your community and let them know that where you are right now is as a place that cannot be forgotten. You have a wide street, you have very fast drivers, okay, you have proximities to the schools, and on the same token, we're asking residents and we're asking mothers and parents to walk their kids to school. So you really have a conflicting issue here. If you're going to be asking them to be walking their kids to school, then we need to have the streets and the drivers around them being very safe. So you are not a forgotten person who's come up here. I know you're alone today. You would love to see a bigger group. But that is an area, and by the efforts of the city, again, hats off to the city staff. Those are incredible efforts. Not every city, or not every street, and there are so many communities that would love to have just 2 of those items that he was listing today. I know it doesn't seem a lot to you because we haven't quite fixed the problem, but as Mr. Golanyan said, it has to be done in a measured time. You put in those bike lanes, you have to stop and see what does it do. You have to observe, you have to study it, and then you take the next appropriate measure. So I just, as a commissioner to you, I would say please hang in there. Don't give up, don't be apathetic, and keep the community very interested and passionate about this. I'm sorry, I was a little bit long.
No, that's fine.
Sorry.
It's important to get that communication across. Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments on this agenda item? Okay, this being an information item, there's no action required on this, but we certainly have heard important comments on it, both by Mr. Caldwell and the commissioners, so we'll hear more on this, more to follow as I understand. So we're going to transition, please, to agenda item number 9, commissioners and staff comments and updates. Which commissioner would like to start this off? If not, I have some items. You okay? You okay? Others? I have a couple of items to bring up, please. Are any staff comments first, or okay?
No, Mr. Chair, thank you.
So, can we get an update at some time where we are under the program that I guess is required by the state regarding complete streets? I as a fairly new commissioner, I read about this in 2 or 3 different periodicals, and I believe the state of California requires cities to be looking at what the definition of complete streets and the potential implementation. And some of that, I believe, is street calming also, traffic calming. Anything you can advise now, or should we just wait for another time?
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, briefly, complete streets, for your edification, means multimodal approach to designing and construction of streets. So we have for several years now, every time we plan on improvements, infrastructure improvements on the street, we look at our transit lines, we look at pedestrian movement and traffic, vehicular traffic. So these are the multimodal aspects of complete streets that we have been following the Los Angeles County Public Works Department guidelines. I can bring a report back to your commission with the details of it if you'd like. I'd be more than happy to do that.
Is that okay with other commissioners?
Yeah.
Because it has to do with pedestrian access and everything that relates to...
Pedestrian accessibility is one of the modes of that multimodal transportation.
So that would be appreciated. Thank you. This kind of ties in with the presentation we had on the PRT, and I wanted to again bring up for discussion where we might be as a city relative to any potential further connection with the system of public transportation that has been mentioned at this dais a few times by commissioners, including myself. I know there's still rumors of a bond in November 16. Has that been removed, do we know? Or for Metro to put out a potential bond to vote on in November 2016?
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, the November 16th, there is going to be a measure. Some folks call it Measure X, some call it Measure R2, which will be the extension of the half-cent sales tax. That's why the original measure was called R and the new one R2, essentially. And all the COGs within the region have collected the potential projects, and as the City of Glendale, and as a follow-up to your recommendation, we have included the PRT between the gold line and the red line, I believe, on that matrix, and has been submitted to Metro.
So that's like an east-west connection. Anything submitted relative to a north-south connection? Because I think we're still, as a city, not connected in that direction to the whole system.
Not within this measure, but the east-west connection has been added to the list.
Well, I'm really pleased to hear that that's been added to the list, but I'm a bit disappointed that we still don't have a potential direct contact north and south. And I don't know how that could be addressed other than maybe requesting a study from a consultant that could advise the best ways to have that. I mean, even the PRT could be north-south, but it sounds like it would only be east-west based on the response to the inquiry. So I don't know where other commissioners are on this, but I still think our city needs to step forward and communicate to Metro that we're serious about wanting to be a better connection to the entire system. When we look at the map, as I've said in the past, our city has been basically not as well connected as what is. We are, I think, the third or fourth city in the entire county. And the notion over time, as we all know, as this ridership is increasing throughout the county and metro, I think our city is, aside from what I've just heard, is a potential. I think north and south is very critical. And I just wish there was a way that we could communicate this to, I mean, at one time this was brought up, I believe, and you were going to talk to the city manager, and then I believe, I guess the city manager would speak with the city council, but I think we have to put some money on the table, frankly, if the city council is worth wanting to do that, to get a study to communicate to Metro that our city is serious. I don't think we're going to get anything passed from Metro unless we do that. I might be naive on that point, but I really think it's important.
Mr. Chair, and as you all know, we have a very good connection on the Metro board,
Yes.
and Mr. Najarian has been a champion
Absolutely.
of public transportation and other forms of transportation for our city.
Right.
And he is the one who has been pushing for this east-west connector. But we will broach the subject with him again, and I'm sure between us and Metro we can come up with some kind of mechanism where we can at least have this route looked at.
Yeah.
And I think east-west is terrific. I mean, we need it both ways, actually. When we really look at the lack of connection to the system, east-west is going to be very good. But if you want to go right downtown, you got to go to the goal line and take the goal line down. And I think the original red line that we had in the city years and years back has a lot of validity, especially with the density that's increasing in downtown. Getting people who live in that area have access to public transportation that gets them to downtown LA, where people work, in addition to working here, I think could go a long way for generations to come. So, any comments from other commissioners on that topic? Or
Absolutely, you're correct, but I think there are ways to tweak the east and west and add a spur track to it. I don't think it's set in stone, and it could be, the route could be discussed, and
good
minor adjustments could be made, but absolutely, the complete picture should include a north-south connector.
So the process now through the group that you just mentioned is then going to be presented to Metro, to staff, and then to the Metro Governance Board, or how does the process work? Please.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, yes, that's absolutely correct. The idea, the suggestion will be presented to staff, and they will have to agendize it for the Metro Board to take action on.
And that would then either become a line item on the potential measure, bond measure, or not?
I believe the deadline for that bond measure, the list, not the bond, it's the tax measure, may have passed. So, but there are other opportunities within Metro and the SCAG that we can apply for grants to at least initiate the study.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments from commissioners? So I have one other, just a logistical matter. I believe our next meeting is October the 26th, according to the schedule. And I just learned about my responsibility here as chair. My wife and I will be on vacation a good part of that month, and we return after that date. So I will not be able to make our meeting on October 26th, just for the record. And I think our next meeting after that is December the 28th, at least by the schedule that we have published so far.
And historically, the December 28th meeting is canceled because of the holidays.
Right. Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, depending on the volume of requests we get for agenda for Commission, we may be able to cancel the October 26th meeting and then call for a special meeting on or about the same date.
November 2nd looks pretty good as a suggestion. But again, that's up to commissioners and the staff, please. Okay. Anything else that we need to cover? Okay, thank you again for the public for being here for your agenda item. And we will see each other sometime in either October, November, or December. And thank you to staff for putting everything together for this meeting. We really appreciate it.
Chairperson Gonzalez, can we get a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
It's been moved and seconded.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.